I'd like to call the Mentor City Council regular meeting of Tuesday, June 6, 2017 to order. The invocation will be given by Councilman Blake.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Mrs. Dowling?
Here.
Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Landig?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Council's in receipt of the minutes of the work session of May 16th, 2017.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
And the regular meeting of May 16th, 2017.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
We have a couple of public hearings this evening that are being held in accordance pursuant to notice duly published and posted according to law. Julie, please call the title.
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended and the official zoning map by rezoning of approximately 6 acres from R4 Single-Family Residential District to RVG Village Green District at 9152 Jackson Street.
Mr. Filipiak?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Traub, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak and members of council. I'm going to use my overhead capabilities or your overhead capabilities to share with you this first project that's before us this evening. Thank you. Certainly, while members of council have an aerial photograph and other appropriate exhibits in their packet, from the standpoint of those in the audience and that may be watching, I think it's useful to locate the project, the aerial photograph. You'll note Jackson Street to the north of the property, Heisley Road a little bit further, just off the map to the east. And the property in question, as Clerk of Council indicated, approximately 6 acres fronting on Jackson Street. One of the unique potential attributes of this project is its proximity to the new city park that I'll be discussing in just a moment. The property is currently used as a single-family residence. Quite an older property. Was built over 100 years ago in 1910. However, the house does not contain any what might be deemed historic attributes that one would want to retain as a part of this development, and that we've discussed in other cases of residential developments. One of the unique features of the site, which can be viewed both as an attribute of the site, as well as an added complexity of the site's development, is the fact that Wayside Creek bisects the, if you will, northern third of the property. And when we take a look at the plan in just a moment, you'll note the opportunity, if you will, that this presents in terms of the ultimate land development. Before you is the concept that the developer has proposed. Again, it's a village green development. You'll note the clustering, if you will, of 14 ranch-style homes with a zero lot line and significant common area both around the properties. But a unique feature of this development is the fact that much of the frontage on Jackson Street, basically from the creek to the north, is designated as park area or green area, and the purpose of that is twofold. One, in terms of development, it provides an opportunity to provide some additional green space for the development, but from a very practical standpoint, drainage from this site is from the south to the north, and in examining the preliminary engineering of this subdivision, it became clear that it would be best suited to leave as much of this area undeveloped as possible, and that was an early recommendation of the Planning Commission and what you see before you this evening. There is provision, as you see, for parking for individuals visiting homeowners in the area. The cul-de-sac length is less than the requirement that would require a waiver on the part of City Council, and we would note that the open space requirement exceeds that's spelled out currently in our zoning code. There's a reference to, as this development is called, Creekside Farms, to their standards and design guidelines, and also the declaration of condominium ownership, and those have been submitted to the administration for their review. That completes my report. To the extent there are any questions, either now or later on during the council meeting, I'd be happy to do my best to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak in favor of this project? Hearing none. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition?
I'd like to speak in favor of it.
Yeah.
Good evening, Greg Summers, Summers Real Estate Group.
What?
I have a short presentation to run through with you. Not to be redundant, because Mr. Traub went through most of the details. I mainly want to show you guys some more pictures of what we're planning for the site. Again, the name of the proposed community is Creekside Farm. Creekside Farm, it will consist of 14 home sites, be a conservation community. Over 23% of the total property is to be dedicated to permanently protected green space. And I want to note, and this is an important point for Planning Commission review, that all the trees located around the perimeter, we're going to leave the trees around the perimeter to provide maximum buffer, and don't plan on removing any of the existing trees along Jackson Street in the front park area and all around the perimeter. The green space, it's going to be functional. It's going to include a walking trail with a sitting area that will connect the future park that adjoins the property, and there'll be sitting areas with benches and a gazebo along that sitting area. And moving along, this is another view of the aerial of the site, and this is an aerial view of what the site is proposed to look like, again facing from southeast to northwest. You can see the entrance from Jackson Street, the park along Jackson Street, and the walking trail that we have planned to join to the park. Another view, this would be a view walking from the future park into the community. As you can see, give residents access, and we're also planning sitting areas along the trail. Another view of the walking trail. Just some additional views of what the site will look like looking into the cul-de-sac. And this is an aerial view of what the site will look like pulling in from Jackson Street into the community. And this is a view showing what the approach to the cul-de-sac in the community. Again, to summarize, Creekside Farm is proposed to feature detached ranch-style homes and offer limited maintenance living options. And the home and the land that it sits on will be owned by the homeowner, and the remainder of the site will be limited common area maintained by the HOA. And thank you for your time, and we are open to any questions or comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Flipak?
I would just make one comment on that. While this is a rezoning hearing, and you are showing us what you intend to do, which, by the way, the administration has been involved in the planning, we think it's a great development. I think you've done a great job with the common space in particular in the front. The one thing I would point out, though, is that you're, at least in this preliminary proposal, you're showing that connecting pathway into the public park. We're not quite finished with our own planning on that park and what we might do with buffers or trails. So I would not, at this point, probably assume that there will be an absolute connecting point there, because we just can't really guarantee that at this point. Just make that comment.
Understood. Maybe we could set up an easement, or, it could be involved in any way that you want us to in the planning, but
Sure. Well, it's always our goal to try to make some connections to neighborhoods. I just don't exactly know what's going to happen there. I mean, we've talked about doing buffers around the perimeter of the park, and I'm not sure what we have exactly planned for that particular area. So hopefully it works out just fine, but I would say that before you get too far ahead in the planning for that little piece of it.
We'll follow your lead on that. Thanks for the feedback.
Mr. Krieger?
Mr. Summers, on that front park area you have set aside on Jackson, is the only amenity you're going to have there is that gazebo, that's it?
Along the creek corridor, yeah, we were going to plan more, but we don't want to disturb it too much. I mean, we want it to be a recreational and a functional green space area, but at the same time not do too much construction in the actual creek corridor. So our plan was to just put benches and a gazebo for people to basically have a sitting area, or, just to be able to enjoy that area and walk down there.
All right, thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to close the public hearing, and then we can do questions a little bit later. Council's in receipt of all, I'm sorry, anyone wanting to speak in opposition? Okay, good. Yes, you can, sir. Please come forward and identify yourself.
It's Chuck McMullen. I just bought a home up there.
Okay, could you come to the microphone for us? Thank
I
you.
bought a home on, what's the street called? I'm off of Jackson, there's Michael, then you got the cul-de-sac. You should know that one,
Matthew.
right?
Yep.
That's Matthew.
Matthew.
I just bought a house there, and it's dead behind me. This is what they're going to build there. When I bought the house, I looked at it, and I thought, boy, this is nice. Didn't know. Should have did my homework, I guess. But I'm worried about buffer. That's what I'm worried about, the buffer. I want a good buffer along there,
Okay.
along my property. And how close are they going to be coming to my property? I got to know that.
Here,
If I might.
what's your address, sir?
I beg your pardon?
What's your address?
I don't have an address right now. I don't have a home.
Oh. Okay, all right, okay.
Okay.
But, yeah, I just happened to
For violating the
pull in there, and I thought, oh, my God, they're going to build here. I can't go anywhere without them building.
Sir, what's your last name for the record?
McMullen,
Okay.
McMullen, Charles.
Did you have any other comments, sir?
Not at this time, but I will talk to my councilman. I guess it's Mr. Sean Blake,
Yes.
Ward 1.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak in opposition? Okay, hearing none. Council's in receipt of all correspondence received pertaining to this matter, and this public hearing is adjourned. Julie, would you read the title to the next public hearing?
Resolution
Oh, I'm
17R114.
sorry.
That's okay. A resolution approving with modifications the application for the placement of farmland in an agricultural district, to wit, approximately 12.67 acres of land located at 9470 Lakeshore Boulevard.
Mr. Filipiak?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. And council has reviewed and approved this approximately 5 years ago, and it is up for reconsideration. Mr. Traub?
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Again, I'll approach the aerial and share with council the exact location of the proposed district extension. Thank you.
Oh, are they?
Mr. Filipiak and members of council, you have a brief staff report that indicates the proposal before you on this legislation is to extend the agricultural district designation that, as Mr. Filipiak indicated, has been in place for, I believe, in excess of 20 years, as I've brought this before preceding members of council. The agricultural district designation basically holds in abeyance the paying of assessments on the property for sewer, water, or electrical service for the duration that that legislation or that designation is in effect. It's necessary for the applicant to demonstrate, and the application is included in your packet of information, that in fact that property is used for nursery purposes, and that thresholds have been demonstrated relative to the financial return to the individual in terms of sale of items that are grown on the property. In the case of the Klesnik property, they've indicated that annuals, perennials, wood plants, cut flowers, etc., are currently grown on the property. And according to my information, they are also trying to establish blueberries on the property as well. I would note, as just to remind council, that the property to the east was recently rezoned for a residential subdivision, a Village Green subdivision, and is subject to development that will ultimately accommodate 48 single-family homes. The Klesniks have indicated that it is their current desire to maintain this designation, and I would note that Ms. Ann Klesnik is in the audience this evening should there be additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trapp. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this from the audience this evening? Anyone want to speak in opposition? Hearing none, did the applicant want to make any comments this evening?
Not really. I mean, we've been doing it for many, many years.
Okay. All right, thank you. This public hearing has been adjourned. New legislation. Ordinance number 17-0-54.
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Mentor 2006 as amended, and the official zoning map by rezoning of approximately 6 acres from R4 Single Family Residential District to RVG Village Green District at 9152 Jackson Street.
Mr. Filipiak?
I don't believe we have anything further to add other than Mr. Traub's comments. I think the applicant's done a very nice job of putting together a development that accommodates some of the open space requirements that I think council contemplated when it first adopted the RVG zoning district. So we would encourage passage.
Thank you. Gentlemen, did you have any additional comments at this time?
What about the guy's address? Okay.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Please call the roll.
Second.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 17-0-54 has been approved. Ordinance number 17-0-55.
An ordinance allowing a time extension to ordinance 17-052, approving a road vacation of a portion of Headlands Road at 9161 and 9153 Jordan Drive and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Madam President, and I'm certain that Mr. Traub has some show and tell for you, but you may or may not decide you want to take a look at it. Council did approve these two properties for vacation. This is former Headlands Road, which is inaccessible and unusable to the city. These properties were approved for vacation back in 2014, and as it turns out, they were never filed with the county auditor's office. So with the error was entirely on the property owner. However, they have asked for council to reconsider and offer the same opportunity for vacation.
Any comments, Jerry?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Ordinance number 17-0-55 has been approved. Ordinance number 17-0-56. Mr. Filipiak.
Do you want to read that?
An ordinance authorizing
sorry.
the execution and delivery of a Mentor incentive grant with Alloy Bellows Corporation and declaring an emergency.
Thank you,
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Madam President. We would ask the council simply read this today and hold off on giving consideration to passage. Mr. Traub and his team have been working closely with the company, and there's just some unsettled business that I think all parties would like to see resolved before any legislation moves forward.
Gentlemen?
I'd move to put on first reading.
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 17-0-56 will stay on first reading. Ordinance number 17-0-57.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to approve the fiscal year 2017 community development block grant budget, submit the fiscal year 2017 CDBG action plan, and enter into a sub-recipient agreements to undertake the action plan and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Madam President, and I will turn this over to Mr. Traub in just a moment, but this is a little bit unusual for us because we are going through all of the required actions in accordance with the required timeline that we have each and every year for our community development block grant allocation. However, what is unique about this year is that because the federal budget has not been adopted, we have not received notice yet that there will actually be an allocation for fiscal year 2017. Having said that, we are doing our due diligence, and we have put an action plan together that is attached for your consideration, and I'll ask Mr. Traub to offer you some comment on that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, you have a very brief report. The bottom line, as it were, as Mr. Filipiak has indicated, is that the future of the Community Development Block Grant Program is somewhat in question, including the inclusion of smaller allocations, smaller communities, such as our own. We've been encouraged by the state of Ohio to proceed as if the program is in place, and at such time as the program is reauthorized, et cetera, we'll be in a position to amend the legislation as may be necessary due to either a greater or lesser allocation, as opposed to going through some of the additional steps in terms of public advertising, et cetera, that excuse me, that might be required. So what you see before you is based on our 2016, FY 2016 program. I would note, and obviously you can see before you, that the most significant investment that the city makes in terms of its block grant dollars is in terms of the single-family housing rehab program, and lesser allocations assist the Menor Sidewalk program. Extended housing for building renovations would be a new single-term investment or single-year allocation. We have, not every year, but with some frequency, put additional money into the MECO small business loan, and those dollars, of course, are recycled in the fund and made available to our businesses. The public services, there are 6 identified here. These are those that had previously been assisted, and you'll note that the dollar amount of $22,140 is slightly below that maximum allocation that the federal guidelines will permit. The remainder of the monies are for staffing and also to pay for fair housing services that are a required part of our overall CDBG program. If there are any questions.
Gentlemen,
Move to suspend.
Second.
please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Ordinance number 17-0-57 has been approved. Resolution number 17-R-114.
The resolution approving with modifications the application for the placement of farmland in an agricultural district, to wit, approximately 12.67 acres of land located at 9470 Lakeshore Boulevard.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Resolution number 17-R-114 has been adopted. Resolution number 17-R-115.
A resolution declaring it necessary to improve the streets hereinafter mentioned within the termini designated by supplying such streets with electric lighting and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this is the first step in the city's street lighting assessment process. It's a resolution of necessity declaring it necessary to provide street lighting. It also sets the rate at $1.20 per assessed valuation on every $100,000 or $1,000. The previous year, the rate was $1.15. It is a 5-cent increase in the rate. And as highlighted in the staff memo, the projected expenditures include the Old Village District lighting as well as a few other projects, Plaza Extension, and we've already done the Civic Center Boulevard, so that's factored in earlier years. And I would recommend approval. Thank you.
Move to suspend. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
No.
Resolution number 17-R-115 has been adopted. Second readings, we have none. Third readings, we have none. Manager's report.
Thank you, Madam President. And Council, we have 2 open pavement cut requests. The first is from Paramount Construction to provide gas service to a property at 7240 Center Street.
Gentlemen.
Move to approve.
Second.
Just one moment. Mr.
Thank you,
Lang.
Madam President. Question for the administration. Since these are at, the 2 are at the same large parcel, 7240 and 7250, separate addresses, but it looks like one parcel. Can I be assured that there's one trench, that we're not doing two separate trenches?
Yeah, there'll be two separate services to the two separate buildings.
Two separate gas lines, I understand that, but
Correct.
why couldn't they be accommodated by one pavement cut?
Typically, the gas utility requires that the connection be made directly in front of the building that it's serving. So we've been unsuccessful in trying to make that happen in the past.
Well, it does look like one parcel, Dave, on the,
It's one parcel, Councilman, but two separate buildings, two separate structures that will be separated and not.
so the frontage, though, is one frontage,
Currently.
or it will be split? Is that,
These are two separate parcels, are they not?
No, it's one parcel, but there are two buildings,
On the property.
and it will be split. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
so even at the property line between the two, my point is, we have to maintain those cuts, and there's extra joints, and I'd like to see it done when we can, in one trench, two gas lines.
We could talk to the gas company about that. These are the two locations that's being requested. But you're saying move them closer together, try to get them in one trench.
One trench at the property line where the two buildings will, so we don't have to saw cut two different places, double them, right, Matt? I mean, we have to maintain
we
that.
can request that.
That's better than 4.
We haven't been successful in the past, and typically in making that
Well,
happen.
typically, they're not in the same location.
No, I think we fully appreciate what you're saying, and I think we would prefer that too. I think in this instance, it's going to be two separate service lines because it will serve two separate buildings. If they can accommodate it in a common trench, we will advocate for that. So if council would not mind authorizing the two cuts, then we'll see what we can do to work with the gas company and see if they'll be willing to accommodate that. We can work on that tomorrow morning.
Gentlemen? Yes, Mr. Murray.
Bruce brings up a good point. Remember years ago when they had to make cuts in the roads, it was a 1 year that we held them at bay for, then we changed it to 2 year. Is there anything else that we should be doing to update our stance on this situation in terms of length of time or the amount of cuts or anything of that nature? Just if you want to you don't have to answer now, but just get back to council with and review our stance on this and our position on this, so we could limit these cuts. Because the second thing after multiple cuts, the worst thing is, especially when we repave a road, and then you have to replace anodes or something like that, and they're recutting our brand new road. So and that's happened before in the past too.
Councilman, if I can just respond to that, and I think that is always our challenge. You're right, it's to try to find ways to minimize the number of cuts and open cuts in the pavement. One thing, and I can say we have done, it doesn't apply in these instances because these are direct tap-ins, but when we have, whenever possible, really limited the number of open pavement cuts for lines that cross the road. So whenever possible, we mandate that borings be made underneath that road, which dramatically cuts down on the number of open cuts that you'll see over time. But in a robust retail community like we have, there's always a lot of new construction and reconstruction, and that tends to cause more cuts than you might see in an average community. But take that into consideration.
Sure, yeah. Any type
Sure.
of policy changes, let us know.
Sure.
All right,
Thank you.
Well, just following up on that, why aren't they boring it?
Well, we're making direct taps in this case. They're tapping the main gas line to provide new service.
Right.
So the pavement cut is essentially for the connection.
Gas lines in the pavement.
Yeah. Gas line runs into the pavement. That's
Okay.
Madam President? Dave, do they have water and sewer already, or is that coming next?
I believe the water and sewer are outside the limits of the pavement. But,
Okay. Thank you.
I think we have a motion to suspend, do we? Second?
Any other comments before? Okay. Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
No.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Move to approve with Bruce's recommendation.
Second.
Well, I wanted to make sure they were in there. We suspended, so you might as well go with it.
Okay. This is a weird meeting. Yes, it is.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Point of information, did you modify the motion then?
Well, I'm just saying, make sure that they understand that you made a recommendation, and the council's acknowledging that you made that recommendation, and that the administration is.
We're hitting the nail twice.
I acknowledge your acknowledgement, vote no.
It's like calling the roll.
Okie dokie.
All right, yes.
Mr. Filipiak.
Well, I asked you for authorization for a pavement cut at 7240, so we should probably also ask for one at 7250 Center Street, also by Paramount Construction, for work related to providing gas service to that new construction at that location.
Move to approve.
Second.
With the same, with the same stipulations as represented by Councilman Landig.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
No.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Thank you. In other news, the City Hall parking lot will be closed the remainder of this week for asphalt resurfacing. There will be additional handicap parking immediately in front of the police department. Other visitors can use the parking lot adjacent to Fire Station Number 5, as well as the parking in front of the community center. Recently, the fire department has again responded to fires resulting from homeowners disposing of ashes from outdoor fire pits or fireplaces into their normal weekly trash containers. Over the years, we've seen a number of large fire losses that have resulted from improper disposal of ashes. So the fire department asks that ash coals, which can stay hot for several days, be properly disposed of using metal containers and soaked in water away from combustible materials. Param Electric has installed traffic and pedestrian signals at the State Route 615 and I-90 westbound intersection. First Energy has been contacted to energize the circuit, and once that's completed, the contractor will return to complete the timing of the signals, as well as install a new cabinet at the intersection. And Mr. Swigert, do you know when the likely timeline is for that signal to become fully active?
We do not have a schedule at this time, but we expect it this summer.
This summer, yeah. Okay, thank you. Some of you have weighed in, and I know received calls over the weekend regarding construction in front of Garfield Park, where the city is currently under contract to improve the left turn lane into the facility, as well as alter the signal there. Due to a damaged traffic control sensor at that location, the park traffic signal was not operating particularly well this past Friday and Saturday, which caused traffic backups. The issue was diagnosed by our contractor on Saturday afternoon and was immediately corrected. We believe that has resolved the problem and that those backups probably will not continue to the extent that they did over the weekend. The road widening work continues this week and is anticipated to occur on a more full-time basis going forward. One westbound lane is expected to remain closed until the road is widened, which we anticipate will be complete by the end of June. The traffic signal installation work is expected to conclude in mid-August. So lane closures during that period of time from June 30th to the middle of August will likely be less frequent than what we see over the next couple of weeks. Sidewalk repair program contractor A&J Cement is currently working along Eastmore, Midland, and Westmore roads. Work will progress east toward Garfield Road as sidewalk repairs continue. Dominion East Ohio Gas is currently relocating gas main service on Midland Road as part of our Midland Storm Sewer project. Great Lakes Crushing has changed their construction start date from June 12th to the week of June 26th in order to accommodate that relocation. And then the city also submitted 3 pre-applications to our local integrating committee for the Ohio Public Works Commission funding, round 32. Those were prepared this week by our engineering department and include projects for the reconstruction of Orchard Road as part of our Headlands Road reconstruction program, the resurfacing of Hopkins Road, and the construction of the Dale Rice Detention Basin. So we hit 3 of 4 wards there, so that's a good start. And then finally, we have a couple of businesses that we want to welcome to our community. Best Lights LED, located at 8909 East Avenue, and Colmar Direct, which is located at 8671 Tyler Boulevard. We thank them for their investment in the community, and we wish them great success. That's all.
Thank you.
Madam President, Ken, on that Garfield turning lane, that
Yes.
was, I got a lot of calls on that, and the thing that bothered most of the people was, I think the barrels looked like they were up for 2 weeks, and there was nobody around ever. There was a backhoe sitting there, and I don't know when that line was damaged, but I didn't see, it had to be 2 weeks before they, we're going to have to probably look into making sure we let the contractors know, the barrels are crucial to that area. That if they don't have to be there, we don't need them there. That was a tough period right there. But I didn't know there was a signal damaged. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, we appreciate those comments, Councilman, and we actually did get on the contract for that. We weren't real pleased with that either. When those construction zones are set up, we anticipate that the contractor will get at that work as soon as possible, recognizing that that's a particularly sensitive area, as really all of Mentor Avenue is. We've received some negative feedback on that as well, and indicating that there's a bad time of the year to do it, but quite frankly, there's no good time
You have to do it,
do that. We did receive assurance, and I tried to relay that in my report, that they will be more active out there. Unfortunately for us, they were active just enough to sever the loop out there and cause the delays that we had, but we
Ken,
think it'll be much better to manage going forward.
Do you know when that was damaged? Was that damaged early on in the project? Or?
I don't know at this
Okay.
point. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was just.
There will be delays, but I think we got a better handle on controlling those
Thank
going
you.
forward.
Appreciate it.
Any other comments? Yes.
One other thing, I just wanted to bring up, I had a question by some of the residents this week on who's responsible for maintaining the swales in these yards and stuff, and I'm sure Mr. Swager will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding in most cases the homeowners are responsible for maintaining, keeping leaves, trash, and grass clippings out of the swale so it doesn't go downstream and block the drains. The city in a lot of these cases, if it's an easement, have the authority only to maintain any breakage of the drain or the pipe. Am I correct on that? Yes. But a couple of the residents wanted that mentioned, so I guess within their neighborhoods they know that the neighbors are responsible for maintaining it, not the city.
Clerk's correspondence?
Nothing to report.
Council's in receipt of the meeting minutes of the Tree Commission of April 12th, 2017, and May 17th, 2017, and the Municipal Planning Commission minutes from May 4th, 2017, and May 17th, 2017. Old business.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Blake.
Ken, do we have any update on the progress of Springbrook Park? I was up there today and see some little flags out, surveying flags, but just kind of wondering when things are going to get rolling. And
Yeah, we're getting pretty close, Councilman, to final plans, final design, so that's why you see those flags out there. I suspect those are probably survey markers. So we anticipate that we'll be looking at some early, very close to complete set of plans out there very soon. So again, our goal for the year is to, before the end of the warm weather season here, to have the walking paths in place, 2 culverts, and a portion of the parking area. That's our goal for the year.
And I see that the parking has been done in front of the tree farm building. Is there anything going on with the tree farm?
Well, we've that's unrelated to the tree farm, although we will be we'll be working toward that too, and finding the best time. Again, the best time of the year to be planting is usually in the fall. So we'll be trying to coordinate our efforts with our annual fall purchase of trees that we'll put around the city and other locations in public and right-of-way areas. But that parking lot area that's been improved or upgraded, I should say, is the result of primarily the completion of Heisley Road, and also the fact that our recreation department has fully transferred all of its maintenance activities into that building. So our recreation department is now present there permanently.
Well, certainly do look forward to that project moving forward with the park development. It'd be neat to see it, piece by piece come into fruition. Absolutely.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Madam President.
Mr. Donovan.
Matt, I see the tree commission's actually doing pretty good. A lot of trees are going in, and do you have any kind of update on that? Or
yes, I'd just say it's been an unusually good year. We've put approximately 180 trees in this year.
That's nice.
We did about almost 70 along Tyler Boulevard, and then about 110 in several different neighborhoods. And we still have some remaining funds, and we're eyeing up some more plantings in the fall.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, it seems like I saw off the freeway. You can see the ones on Tyler, and they look good. Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
And also, Councilman Donovan, some of the trees that we'll be replacing, you'll see go up as early as this week. We're doing some screening and landscaping in the rear area, in and around. It's not completely related to the amphitheater project, but it's in an effort to provide some screening from the view of the backside of the ice arena, as you would sit in the bowl and as a member of the audience with respect to the new amphitheater, as well as you'll see some landscaping on the outside of the new amphitheater, which will be primarily rose gardens as a tribute to our heritage.
Thank you.
Any other old business? New business? Okay, hearing none. We have one person that would like to speak before council this evening. Please come forward, identify your name and address, please.
I'm Ken White and I live at 5808 Hopkins Road. And thank you for the roses, and Mr. Donovan pointed out the roses on Civic Center. That we've talked about this before. This is a heritage of what is now the city of Mentor. The many rose gardens that were here and the many nurseries. And I really want to thank you, the city leaders, and the city administration for some of the work that you started doing on the old Station 1 Fire Museum now. I want to thank you on behalf of the Firefighters Historical Association, because this work that you're doing not only preserves the history of the Mentor Fire Department, but for some of us, it's preserving the history of our families, because our grandfathers and our fathers were firefighters there, even in the old building in the back that we now use as a safety house, and the old truck the one truck that we still have there. These are things that our fathers used to protect this community, and to me, I'm really happy that what my father started out in, and some of the others who are there, their grandfathers started out in, is being preserved. And again, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Yes, Mr. Martin.
Kenny, we would just all like to thank you guys for all the time you put in, at the station. I mean, I know my son, who's going to be in 7th grade, was reprimanding his Uncle Jerry because of how he was handling starting a fire at the Mentor Lagoon. And he said he remembered going through the society. So we appreciate it. So thank you, and it's really helping these kids.
I got to tell you one story, though. It happened because of what we do there. We went to a house fire, and the parents came up to the firefighters and said, "Thank you very much." And we said, "What?" He says, "Well, because what you're teaching our kids, that saved us from what's happened in our house. It got us out of the house and got everybody safely taken care of. And it's because of what we taught the kids there at the museum." Thank you again.
Thanks.
Thank you. Gentlemen?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.